Scaphism. This method was used in ancient Persia, and even the name carries a kind of dread. The condemned person was stripped and forced into the tight space between two boats, fitted together like a crude shell, with holes just large enough for the head, hands, and feet to poke through. Once locked in, they were force-fed a sickening mixture of milk and honey until their stomach gave way to violent diarrhea. The same mixture was then smeared across every exposed part of their body, leaving them slicked in sweetness and utterly helpless. Then they were set adrift on a stagnant pond or left in a swamp under the open sky. The sun did the rest. Flies swarmed within hours. Insects bored into the flesh. The warmth and moisture inside the wooden casing, combined with the filth accumulating beneath the person, created conditions that were less a punishment and more a slow unraveling, the body breaking down while the person remained conscious, sometimes for days. The brazen bull. The brazen bull is one of those inventions so disturbing that part of you hopes it was never real. Associated with ancient Greece, a hollow, life-sized bull cast entirely from bronze with a door in its side just wide enough to shove a person through. Once the condemned was sealed inside, a fire was lit beneath the statue and stoked until the metal began to glow. The interior, of course, became an oven, but the truly calculated cruelty lay in the engineering. The bull was reportedly fitted with a system of tubes in chambers near its muzzle, designed so that the person's screams, as they were cooked alive, would pass through the pipes and emerge from the bull's open mouth as something resembling the deep, bellowing roar of a real animal. The audience outside would hear the bull. They would not hear the man. Ling Chi. Also known as death by 1,000 cuts, Ling Chi was a real, formally codified punishment in imperial China, reserved for those who had committed the gravest offenses or crimes. It wasn't simply an execution, it was a carefully staged, publicly witnessed act of total annihilation. The process began not with a blade, but with restraints. The condemned was bound in a public space, exposed to an audience that was expected to be there, expected to watch. What followed was a methodical removal of flesh from the body, carried out in a precise sequence. Pieces of skin and muscle were cut away from the limbs, the chest, the shoulders, the executioner working deliberately, keeping the person alive and conscious for as long as the procedure allowed. The breaking wheel. The breaking wheel was a fixture of public punishment across medieval and early modern Europe. The condemned was brought before a crowd, because the crowd was always part of it, and tied spread-eagled to a large cartwheel, their limbs stretched and secured against the spokes. The executioner then went to work with a heavy iron-shod wheel, a hammer, or a blunt-edged bar, methodically striking the limbs to shatter the bones. The arms first, then the legs, each blow deliberate, each crack audible to the watching crowd. After the breaking was complete, the person, still often alive, their body a wreck of broken bones, might be left displayed on the wheel for hours or days as a message to anyone passing by. Drawing and quartering. In England, drawing and quartering was the prescribed punishment for high treason. The condemned was drawn, meaning dragged through the streets on a hurdle behind a horse, from the prison to the place of execution. This alone was not incidental, it was just the opening act. At the scaffold, the condemned was hung, but not to death. The drop was short enough that he was left conscious and suffering, then cut down while still alive. What followed was evisceration, the bowels removed and often burned before the person's eyes. Then came castration, then beheading, and finally the quartering, the body divided into 4 parts, each sent to a different location across the kingdom to be displayed publicly on spikes or over city gates, a reminder spread across the land of what treason cost. The Blood Eagle. The Blood Eagle is perhaps the most disturbing entry in the entire catalog of Viking-era punishment. According to the accounts that have survived, the victim was placed face down, their back was cut open, and then their ribs were severed from the spine, one by one, using a blade or a spear fitted with a shallow hook to effectively unzip the bones away from the column. Large flaps of skin and muscle were peeled back, and the ribs were bent outward to either side, forming the shape of wings, the eagle the ritual was named for. The lungs were then pulled through the opening and draped over the outstretched ribs, completing the image.